Hi, this is Paige. Welcome to Wrap Up Saturday on the Bible Coffee and Paige. This is the day where I wrap up what I did the week before and give you my takeaways and kind of give you a sneak preview of what's coming next week. Let's start with the sneak previews first. We did 1 John this week. We're going to do 2 John on Monday, 3 John on Tuesday, and then starting Wednesday, I'm going to be keeping with my tradition of last things of New Testament writers, and I'm going to go to Paul's last couple letters that he wrote toward the end of his life, and that would be the letters 1st and 2nd Timothy. Actually, 2nd Timothy is the one I will focus on. But I'm going to write. I'm going to be covering 1st Timothy because really you got to take those two in pairs. But 2nd Timothy is Paul's last letter that he wrote, and before he was killed, and so I'm fascinated. I want to see what Paul thought was truly important. We see what John thought was important in his gospel, and we're going to see that in his 3 epistles toward the end of his life, what he thought was important. And we'll take a look and see what Paul, the apostle, thought was important when he writes to Timothy. Now, what are my takeaways from this last week? What's that old song that Tina Turner used to sing? What's love got to do with it? It's nothing but a secondhand emotion. It's a lot more than that, Tina. Love is the earmark of a true believer. That's what I get. John was writing to combat an upcoming heresy in the New Testament church. There's a sense of urgency in what he wrote because he knows he's not going to be around much longer. And the Gnostic heresy was dangerous. It was dangerous in the sense that it offers the thrill of secret knowledge, and it caters to self. Does it feel right? You see that in some churches today. People ask you, do you feel the presence of God in this room? How did worship make you feel? What did you feel during the worship service? You know, this is just an aside. The presence of God, if the presence of God were to show up, we'd have all fallen flat on our faces. Take a look anytime God shows up in the Bible. It's pretty impressive because our God is an impressive God. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel warm and loving and that you shouldn't get a taste of the glory of God during a worship service. But if God were truly to show up, we'd all be knocked flat down. But John is addressing this heresy, which is very appealing to people. Instead of detailing what the heresy taught, he focuses on legitimate, real Christianity. And legitimate, real Christianity loves God, loves his neighbor. That's my takeaway from John. Just like the people who are trained to detect counterfeit money, they spend the vast majority of their training time on studying real money, to the extent that they know it so well that they can instantly detect the phony money when it shows up. They don't study all the different ways. I'm sure they do, but they don't spend a majority of the time looking at phony money. They spend the great majority of the time looking at real money, real currency, so they can detect fakes. So John spends this entire epistle telling them what real Christianity looks like, and it's love. Love God, love your neighbor. An old rabbi once said that if you look at the 10 Commandments, the core of all the laws that have been written, if you look at the 10 Commandments, he says, realize that this is a relation-based document. In other words, God's saying, if I am truly the Lord your God, and we have a relationship, you and I, you won't have any other God before me. You won't murder. You won't kill. You won't steal. You won't covet. He says the essence of the 10 Commandments springs out of relationship with God. Nothing could be more true. than that. I love my wife. I have a relationship with my wife. Because of this relationship, I show my love to my wife, to the world around me, and to my wife by doing what makes her happy, by protecting her, by helping her, by loving her, showing her, doing things that please her. That's because I love her. If I just said, honey, I love you, and never did a thing about it, I never hugged her, never held her hand, I never ministered to her, would you think I loved her? No, you wouldn't. If we love God, we will show that by loving Him with all our heart, soul, and mind, and loving our neighbors ourselves. Authentic Christianity is characterized by love. That's what I'm taking out of 1 John. And I get that out of his gospel. I see that in his gospel. In his gospel, he's a storyteller. In his epistle, he's a pastor. And again, what differentiates him from Paul? Because Paul is going to be taught. Paul agrees with John about love. Look at his 13th chapter in his letter to the Corinthian church. Love is gentle. Love is patient. Love is kind. He tells us what love looks like. Paul is the academic, and we're going to see that when we get into 1 and 2 Timothy starting Wednesday of next week. Paul's the academic. You might say Paul is going to teach us how to think, what right thinking is. John tells us what right living looks like. They're related, two sides of the same coin. So with that, dear ones, that's my wrap-up Saturday. I hope you have an incredible Lord's Day tomorrow, and I will see you on Monday where I do 2 John, and Tuesday, 3 John, and Wednesday we start with 1 Timothy. All right, this is Mr. G. Here's my coffee. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.